Welcome to LifeBlood. This is George G, and the time is right. Welcome to today's guest, strong and powerful Lana Kerr. Lana, are you ready to do this?
I am ready.
All right, let's go. Lana has devoted her life to health and wellness. She's a wellness coach, speaker, best-selling author, the CEO of Lumisque, and a women's sexual health advocate. Lana, excited to have you on. Tell us a little bit about your personal life, some more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Okay, nice question. First of all, thanks for having me
Yeah,
on your platform. Uh, I am a woman. I'm married. Actually, this year we're celebrating our 25th anniversary,
congratulations.
and thank you. Two kids, 21 and going to be 19 this year. I've always been, my background is in accounting and finance, but I've always had a passion for beauty, for wellness, for health. And I think it really started actually when my brother got sick. He had ITP, it's a blood disorder, then developed colon cancer, and then so he was at the time 16, and I'm about 8 years older than him, and we just started looking for solutions for him. So that's what started our journey. But I was always, I was at that time in business, decided to go and pursue nutrition, started weight loss clinics about 23 years ago, and then eventually came upon the carboxy gel, which we created, the first gel carboxy, which I guess we'll talk about. That was back in 2015. And in 2016, we launched Lumisque. And that's really where my focus is.
Nice. I appreciate that. Is your brother still with us?
Yes,
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
goodness.
He is. It's interesting. They were recommending that uh, he had to change. They recommended that he had to do something like his spleen. We found out how to help him just address the root cause of what he was suffering with. And fortunately, he's still alive with us today.
Wonderful. So getting into the root cause, that is certainly something that we talk a lot about. Um, Women's sexual health. Is that an extremely broad topic?
I I think it is and it isn't. I think when I really became more into advocating for women's health is like most things that I've been involved in and I have a lot of passion with, it started with my own self needs. With weight loss, it was the same thing when we started our weight loss clinics. We found a way to help me to get to my ideal body fat, and we just helped after that another 15,000 individuals with that. When we started Lumisque and getting into carboxy, I was at the age where aging was something that was on my mind, preventing it. I'm 52, 51 this year. And so at the time, so do the math on that. That's the age when, unfortunately, I find most Americans in my generation really start looking at aging later on in life, like in their late 30s and 40s. I find that today it's definitely changing. More younger and younger women are looking at a way to preserve youth, which I really think that's a great way to start thinking about it. Because if you look in other countries, in Asian countries, for instance, they start at a very early age. So anyway, so I started with looking into that, getting into the skin. In my 40s, I started having my own challenges with enjoyment of intimacy and went to my gynecologist, and she said to me, Lana, you're just getting older, and as you get older, these things happen. She had a device that she was recommending. It was a laser treatment that she said, something, you can do this and we can set an appointment for you to get this done for your vagina. And when she said that, and the whole protocol that she was recommended, I recognized that we had something already that addressed
Hmm.
skin regeneration for the face and for the neck and the body. So that's when we just looked at that, started our clinical studies on that, and fortunately, and we had great success in terms of safety and efficacy. After the clinical, tried it on myself, my mom, my aunts, and it was like I forgot what a 21-year-old vagina felt like. So, and my mother, she's in her 70s, but she went from sandpaper to butter, if you understand what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fascinating. I skin is skin our largest organ?
Skin is our largest organ, and many people disregard the skin between their legs, which
Hmm.
is, you take care of, you put so much emphasis and focus on the face and the neck, and you kind of forget what's going on there. And I think it's because we just don't know. We just focus on there. And I always say this gets your partner, this keeps your partner. That area keeps your partner. And so we need to focus on it. And we don't really talk about what happens as we get older. We know that as we get older our skin gets thinner and we focus here. But it's the same thing that's going on down there. And so when our skin gets thinner for women, when that vaginal tissue gets thinner, sexual health, sexual intimacy, sex can become more uncomfortable. So we can start experiencing painful sex, vaginal dryness, and just lack of arousal or enjoyment. And so, you, generally speaking, you'll hear women as we get older just kind of disregard that area and just think they're not, maybe not so much into it, and it affects a lot of relationships, a lot of marriages. You can see, as women get older, they don't really are not really into that so much, and it's just simply because of the fact of that area is aging, and that's a natural part. However, like anything else, technology has changed, and we can address it, and we can actually regenerate that area and make it youthful and improve the functionality of that area so we can enjoy that, which I think is important, especially as we get older and we have so much confidence and so much experience. Why not allow that area or that part of our life to also expand and also just become greater than it was when we were younger?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So you you're having a conversation with your doctor, and they're talking about laser protocol, and you're thinking, well, we already have a product. We've already created this wonderful formulation, which is helping with other parts of our body. Maybe it will work on the vagina as well. I have to imagine, though, that um, internal versus external, that was an issue, or no?
Okay, so let me just kind of step back then, George, and tell you a little bit about what the product is. So it's a carboxy gel. So for about 85 years, physicians have used carbon dioxide to regenerate the tissue. The only way to put it into the skin was through a needle.
Hmm.
So there was pain involved, there was downtime involved, and you had to go to a physician to do that. We created a gel delivery system. So if you think about testosterone, for instance, people going to hormone replacement therapy. Testosterone or any kind of hormone can be administered with an injection, or it can be with a gel through the skin. It's just another delivery system, just one
Hmm.
has less pain. Well, it's the same thing with carbon dioxide. Carboxy gel delivers carbon dioxide to the skin. And what happens when that takes place is that the body will naturally rush oxygen to that area. It's going to naturally open your capillaries will widen to bring oxygen rich blood to the area that is applied. And so what happens is that your skin regenerates very quickly. For instance, the carboxy gel can heal non-healing diabetic ulcer, if you think, in as little as 8 days. That's
Wow.
how quickly it can be done. So, you think of other products that can bring about increased circulation to the skin, increase hydration to the skin. But I often compare that to taking a boat to Asia. You'll eventually get there. Carboxytherapy is a jet plane, it gets there very quickly. And so when you put it on the skin, it's just allowing the body to heal itself. So you talk about internal now. So the skin on the face, the neck, the body. They're using it. Plastic surgeons use it after they do surgery to help heal. Um, Dermatologists use it to prepare the skin before a procedure and post to help heal. So what we were thinking about, if it's something is regenerating the tissue on the skin very quickly on the face and the neck, what's the difference with vaginal tissue? It's the same thing. And the carboxy gel can be put on just sensitive skin, so mucosa. So thinking of putting it internally, we were like, that's what we just wanted to know if it was safe because we
Mhm.
already knew that it would be effective. So when we did our clinical trials, that's what we are looking for, both safety and efficacy. And we did questionnaires and then it ended with biopsies. And when the pathologist looked at the tissue of these women that were in their 60s and 70s after 10 treatments with the CO2 lift V, which is what it's called, their tissue looked like women who were in their 30s.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's how we knew. And so and they're going to increase natural lubrication because as we get older, we lose estrogen and it becomes drier. And so that's going to improve naturally. So we're not talking about a lube that can be used pre-sex. We're talking about a treatment that's actually changing the tissue, it's changing the skin. So that skin is just more conditioned and softer inside so that it naturally produces that, as well as the sensitivity is going to increase. So you're going to feel more because blood flow, you're going to have more arousal. So you think of blood flow like Viagra for a man, for instance, we use that. That's just bringing more blood flow to that tissue, right? It's the same thing with the vagina. It's bringing more blood flow and so therefore more sensitivity. And so therefore it's going to become more top of mind. You're going to get more arousal and more desire, which I think is really important, especially in a relationship,
Yeah. Amazing.
for it to be mutual. Yes.
So the reality of aging for our skin is it gets thinner, drier, all these problems through 10 treatments. It's actually reversed that. So it's not like a momentary, I'm not just applying lube, it is reversing it to around, I think you mentioned age 50 to around age 30, something like that. How long does it last for?
Great question. So once you do, so the minimum treatment is 5. So many women today, or I wouldn't say many, a lot of women today, they will go into their gynecologist or their dermatologist, even or plastic or med spa, and they may do a laser for that area or some type of energy-based treatment. A woman like that, generally a box of 5 will help to increase and improve the result that she received. If you're doing it as a standalone with no other type of energy, then you're probably going to require 10, which can be done. It's a it's a gel that you insert inside and then on the vulva to the perineum. It's left on. You can leave it on overnight and it takes off in the morning. You may want to do a treatment every 3 to 5 days for 10 treatments. So it happens very quickly. Once you complete that series, whether it be 5 or 10, if you never did another one, your symptoms may return in another 8 months. That's why we recommend a monthly treatment to maintain. So I personally have been doing it every month and it just keeps the results. I also recommend and love to do it before a sex weekend, for instance. Just, you're going on a marathon, just prepare for it. So that's another time that I would recommend doing it. But you mentioned something, and I just want to make it clear. It's not only for women, aging women, because, well, aging actually starts from 25. So we think of premenopausal, perimenopausal, menopausal women. I'm in the age of that. But women after just giving birth, after having a child, that's another time that this is great because it's going to help repair that tissue that she may have torn from giving birth. Also, too, it just brings back more sensitivity to that area after a child, after the trauma of giving birth. You want to just bring that area back. So she may need possibly 3 to 5 treatments just to bring her back. It's great during breastfeeding because when a woman is breastfeeding, she is going to be drier down there. So this is something that she can do on a monthly basis, while she's breastfeeding to make that area as pleasurable and as comfortable as possible. When women are on medication, for instance, if you think about allergy medication, you think it's drying out your passages, your nasal passages. Well, the vaginal passage is another, it's going to get drier too. So this is something that will help to counteract that. Or if she's on antidepressants, that can also affect that area too. So it's not only for perimenopausal, but really any woman, as you get older, you want to start preventing age. I like to think of it like when you think of it, I mentioned Asian skin, they actually start in many, in that culture, they start from 15. And that's why they can kind of freeze their skin so they can look young for a very long time. So the same principle, if we want to keep that area or the face, the body, that start younger so that you can delay aging, you can delay the effects of aging. And that's what this is doing for the face, the body, as well as for the vaginal area.
Well, that certainly makes sense. How has how long has um how long have treatments like the lasers or just other interventions, how long have those been around? And I guess my question is, I imagine some people are a lot less comfortable having a conversation about this and just sex in general, but how has that shifted over the last 5, 10 years?
Great question. So, for instance, carboxytherapy administered with injections with a needle, that has for vaginal rejuvenation for the last 50 years.
Oh
But
wow.
that's been done in Europe.
Hmm.
I mean, in countries in Europe, they're very um, vaginal health and vaginal is very important. I mean, in some countries, even after when a woman gives birth, they start bringing that area back, her pelvic floor, bringing it back. In the United States, we don't talk about things like that. It's true. I mean, I can say that growing up, I never even, I think the first conversation I really had with my mother on sex, I mean, like real, the bread and butter of sex was actually when I brought that up to her, I was just about to turn 40, I think. And I asked
You're
mommy, I
40?
said, I'm 50 when I was I'm 51, but when I was going to be 40.
That was the first time you talked about with your mom?
Well, real sex. I mean, we talk,
Wow.
I mean, obviously when she talked about our peer, the whole sex conversation, that kind of, but talking about like intimacy and with my husband. And I asked her, I said, "Mommy, how do I know that I'm having good sex?"
Hmm.
And she really said something, George. It actually changed my life because she said that good sex is like playing tennis. It's just a different set of balls. She said, just focus on hitting the ball. And what it really meant for me was that sex was more about connection, not only connecting with yourself, but connecting with your partner versus performing. I think that because when I got married, mommy said to me, the best way to keep your relationship is to feed your husband and to give him sex every day. Like that was what she said. So I always looked at it more as something for him,
Hmm.
for you're doing it for him. And I think a lot of women kind of maybe look at it that way. That's why it's a to do, it's like, oh my God, I have to do this, as opposed to looking at it as a way to really connect with your partner, connect with yourself, to kind of refresh and to plug into each other. So when she said that to me, I kind of shifted my whole perspective and saw that as a way to kind of reconnecting with him every day. And so now it was just different because now I saw the benefit for myself and the benefit for our relationship together. So with that conversation, I have from that point on, I've really started focusing on that aspect of my life. And I've seen how it has added such more flavor to not only my life, but my life with my husband. We're just in a different space because of that regularity of connection. And it makes it more enjoyable. So it's not a time set on it. It's just a more of, I always think of it as Netflixing into it. You kind of just relax into it. And this is our time together. And so that conversation, so you talk about, okay, so the question was the vaginal rejuvenation, how young is it? So in Europe, they have these conversations and they understand how women's health and women's sexual health is important. In the United States, I think that conversation in my age group, what we didn't really have it. We're now talking about it. I think more younger women are more comfortable talking about it. So here in the United States, even with many physicians, gynecologists in particular, just because we also focus on helping them, I think the change is happening because when I spoke, after I gave birth, 20, my last child, is 18, so 19 years ago, or eight, that when I gave birth, my gynecologist didn't have this conversation with me. In fact, I remember talking to her and telling her that I didn't feel to be intimate. So can she write a note to my husband that to extend the 6 weeks?
Hmm.
If she had a solution, said, Lana, you know something? This is something that's very natural. Here's a solution. So that time we didn't really talk about it. However, I understand for in the last maybe so we've been in 2015. When I got into the skincare business back in 2016, we launched. I remember at a derm meeting, they actually had a session on using energy for vaginal health. And I just kind of thought, what the hell is that about? In fact, I didn't even pay attention to it until it was something that I needed. I was for myself. And then I thought, let me look into talk to my gynecologist, and she actually had a laser device. So
Hmm.
it's still relatively new in this country. However, it's not new outside of the United States. The for CO2 lift gel, the gel is new because it was only created in 2015. And for the CO2 lift V is really only 2 or 3 years old. However, that technology of carboxy therapy has been used for vaginal rejuvenation for over 50 years.
Got it. Wonderful.
That was a long-winded way to answer that
That's
question.
great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, Lana, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you, and how can they learn more about this protocol and actually get the product?
Oh, awesome. Well, we actually created something for your listeners. We created it's Lifeblood 15. So it's going to be Lifeblood 15 for 15% discount on really any of the products. They would visit CO2 Lift, like CO2, like carbon dioxide, but lift.com. And at checkout, if they put Lifeblood 15, they would receive 15%. And on that website, co2lift.com, they can look on the product, look on vaginal rejuvenation, hear from other women, hear from physicians, because it is physician recommended, but you can get it straight from there. And you can get more information. Certainly, if you have any questions, also check out our Instagram, CO2 Lift. There's, if we have the bubbles that have more information on each of the products, and you can see from other testimonials of how women are finding the product, as well as men too, how they're finding it.
Perfect. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Lana your appreciation and share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to co2lift.com and use the promo code lifeblood15 for 15% off. And go and find them on Instagram as well, CO2Lift. And I will list all of those in the notes of the show. Thanks again, Lana.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And until next time, keep fighting the good fight. We are all in this together.